Now we'll begin 11th Annual Korean Flag Raising Ceremony. 제11회 대한민국 태극기 개양식을 거행하도록 하겠습니다. 우선, let's welcome Vice Mayor Chappie Jones for his introductory remarks and welcome remarks. 네, 환영 및 소개를 산호세 부시장 차피 존스님께서 해주시겠습니다.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate the 11th Annual Korean Flag Raising, commemorating the end of the Korean War in 1953. I've had the honor and privilege of hosting this flag raising the whole time I've been on council. I tell the story all the time about how Mr. Min came to my office and we were talking, and I told him that my father was a Korean War veteran. And ever since that moment, Mr. Min adopted me as part of the family, and I feel like the Korean community has adopted me as part of your family. This is my last flag raising that I'm going to host because I'm termed out of office. But hopefully next year, one of my colleagues or my successor will continue this great tradition. Today, we're honoring the brave veterans who fought in the Korean War. And when you think about what's going on in the world today, with what's going on in Ukraine, what's happening in North Korea, it really brings home how important it was for the sacrifice of the Korean War veterans that kept the community safe and free. So I just want to say that I'm just so proud to be here today to honor and respect the sacrifices and the contributions that the Korean American community has made, not only to Korea, but to our country, to our state, and most importantly for me, the city of San Jose. So I want to present this proclamation to Daniel and in honor of recognizing the Korean flag raising and again the sacrifice and contributions that the Korean American community has made. So Daniel, can you please come up and accept this proclamation? And I'm glad I'm done with my speaking because my notes just flew away. So again, thank you very much. And again, I'm honored and privileged to be able to host this flag raising. So thank you very much.
미국 국기 개양이 있겠습니다. 미국 국가는 실리콘밸리 한인 합창단, 실리콘밸리 한인 오케스트라에 의해서 연주가 될 것이고요. 실리콘밸리 한인의 우동욱 회장님, 그리고 실리콘밸리 월참 전후의 김기만 부회장님께서 개양해 주시겠습니다. 개항식이 있겠습니다. 샌프란시스코 대한민국 총영사관 윤상수 총영사님 그리고 실리콘밸리 월참 전후회 박인식 회장님께서 개항해 주시겠습니다. 애국가는 실리콘밸리 한인 합창단 그리고 실리콘밸리 한인 오케스트라가 연주하겠습니다. 이제 한국전에서 희생하신 영웅들을 위해서 묵념하는 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 일동 묵념.
Vice Mayor Chappie Jones, the City of San Jose, and President Daniel Wu, the Silicon Valley Korean American Federation, and President Do Jun Ho, the Korean War veterans, and the President In Sik Ma, and Silicon Valley Vietnam war veterans, and also the members of the Korean community in San Jose and Silicon Valley. It is my great honor and pleasure to be part of this wonderful Korean flag raising ceremony in front of the beautiful building of city San Jose. The flag raising ceremony was resumed last year after being unopposed during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Vice Mayor, the Chappie Jones, for hosting this very important event this year again to commemorate the Korean War. I understand that the Vice Mayor, as you told, that has been a long time friend of a Korean community in Silicon Valley, and also your father was Korean War veterans. I really appreciate what you have done for Korean community, and it is the 11th ceremony of the Korean flag raising ceremony, and with all the Korean community members, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to you for your hard work during your term as a Vice Mayor. Without the Korean War veterans' noble sacrifice to protect the democracy and the human rights of the Korean people during the war, Korea could not survive the war and later on become the 10th largest economy in the world with the full-fledged democracy. As you mentioned, we are denouncing the atrocity in Ukraine, and it reminds us that the peace and security is very much important, and the peace building is very much concern for every people around the world. And the support from the international community, including United States during the Korean War, has been very much important for us to secure our nations during the Korean War. The Korean War often referred as the forgotten war. However, we Koreans never forget this war, and also always remember the brave heroism made during the Korean War by the U.S. servicemen and women. And we really appreciate the dedication and sacrifice by the U.S. soldiers and Navy men and Air Force servicemen during the Korean War. Last month, the Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol became a new president, and then the 10th day later, the U.S. President Joe Biden visited Korea and had a summit meeting. And during the meeting, the two leaders agreed upon the extending our alliance into global strategic partner. So under that agreement, I think the Korea and U.S. alliance will be grow to become a really global partner beyond the Korean Peninsula. And I think we will play together the pivotal role as a global leader in the field of democracy, economy, and technologies. And I think the importance of this Silicon Valley area and the role of a Korean community will be greater in strengthening the strategic and comprehensive Korea and U.S. alliance. Once again, I thank you very much, the Vice Mayor and the City of San Jose, and I also appreciate all the community members present today to commemorate the Korean War and the heroism made by the U.S. servicemen during the Korean War. And I think it is very hard. And 오늘 이렇게 참석해 주신 우리 동포 여러분, 특히 실리콘밸리의 그 한국전 참전 유공자분들, 또 베트남 참전 유공자분들, 우리 또 음악을 맡아주신 여러분들께 감사 말씀을 다시 한번 드리면서 제 인사말을 마치겠습니다. 감사합니다.
충성! 6.25 기념사. 저는 먼저 매년 이렇게 6월 25일 산호시시 조례로 한국전쟁 기념일로 제정하고 대한민국 국기 개양식 행사를 거행하여 주시는 산호시시 시장님과 부시장님을 비롯하여 한국전쟁 기념일을 시 조례로 제정해 주신 시의원들에게 머리 숙여 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 지난 2년간 예기치 못한 코로나19 바이러스 전염병으로 인하여 행사를 제대로 못하였으나 오늘 시청 광장에서 국기 개양식을 거행하게 되어 기쁘게 이를 데 없습니다. 오늘 저희들은 72년 전 6월 25일을 기억하고자 합니다. 1950년 6월 25일에 북한 공산당의 불법 남침으로 동족 상전의 처참하였던 한국 전쟁에서 미국의 도움이 없었다면 오늘의 대한민국이 존재할 수 없었으며 우리의 후손들이 자유를 누리며 오늘을 평화롭게 살 수가 없었을 것입니다. 이 국기 개양식 행사를 돌이켜보면 2012년 3월에 6.25 참전 국가유공자 미주청연합회의 제안을 산호세시 의회에서 받아들여 5월에 산호세 시의회에서 6월 25일을 한국전쟁 기념일로 제정하는 시조례가 만장일치로 통과되어 미국 50개 주에서 처음으로 한국전쟁 기념일이 제정되었습니다. 또한 2014년 3월에 캘리포니아 주 상원 본회의에서 6월 25일을 한국전쟁 기념일로 제정해 줄 것을 상원 의원을 통해 발의하여 5월 23일에 캘리포니아 주 상원에서도 만장일치로 통과하고 6월 20일에 상하원 합동회의에서 6월 25일을 한국전쟁 기념일로 제정하는 법률 SCR 110호가 통과하여 6월 22일에 가주 법무부에서 선포를 발표하여 6월 25일은 캘리포니아주 전체의 한국전쟁 기념일로 선포되었던 것입니다. 그리하여 오늘 제10회차 태극기 개양식을 산호세 시청 광장 국기 개양대에서 하늘 높이 거양하게 된 것을 기쁘게 생각합니다. 72년 전인 1950년 미국 국민으로서는 한국은 멀고 먼 나라였으며 잘 모르는 나라, 아는 사람이 별로 없는 나라였습니다. 그러나 미국의 용감한 용사들은 공산 침략에서 자유를 소화하기 위하여 한국 전선에서 목숨을 바쳐 우리 대한민국을 오늘이 있게 지켜주셨습니다. 미국과 우리 대한민국은 단순한 우방국이라기보다 혈맹으로 맺어진 동맹국입니다. 그러므로 우리 대한민국 국민은 미국과 혈맹으로 맺어진 우리를 영원히 지켜나가는 정신을 가져야 할 것입니다. 우리 미주동포들은 매년 6월 25일을 잊지 마시고 꼭 산호세 시청 광장에서 모여서 태극기를 휘날리며 애국가를 힘차게 불러 우리의 조국 대한민국을 더욱 빛내주시기를 바랍니다. 감사합니다. 2022년 6월 22일 6.25 참전국가유공자 미주총연합회 회장 고도준 충성!
The nation which forgets its defenders will itself be forgotten. The ever so reticent President of the United States, Calvin Coolidge, urged the nation to support those who wore the uniform in his vice presidential acceptance speech in 1920. And 100 years later, we stand here commemorating the brave patriots who gave everything to protect the principles this nation stands for. We stand here together to thank and honor their sacrifice. First of all, on behalf of Korean American communities in Silicon Valley, I would like to thank the city and citizens of San Jose under the leadership of Honorable Vice Mayor Chappie Jones for providing the opportunity to proclaim that Korean War was not a forgotten war, but a war which achieved a great milestone in protecting the democratic principles of this great nation. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the patriotic heroes, 72 years ago, the eerie sound of shelling broke the silence of peace in the 38th parallel. During the next 5 years, nearly 5 million people became casualties of the war. 40,000 American troops died and more than 100,000 wounded in action. These sacrifices will not go unnoticed or unacknowledged. Some say the Korean War is a forgotten war, but I say never. The great sacrifice of the United States and Korean heroes established and upheld the democratic principles of our great nations. And the Korean War must be recognized as a milestone of democratic victory for the peoples of the world. Just yesterday, An enchanting streak of fiery rocket trail broke the silence of anticipation at Naro Space Center in Korea. In retrospect, Korea, a struggling country without the capability to defend its freedom 72 years ago, has just become the 7th most advanced aerospace leader in the world. If it wasn't for you and your sacrifice, there would not have been a democratic Korea or Korean people who would be a strong ally to the United States in establishing, upholding, and protecting democratic peace in the world. Thank you all for joining in this ceremony. And yes, as Calvin Coolidge would say, the honor shall be yours forevermore. Thank you.
If you have a flag yourself, you can raise it and sing it together.
충성 만세 삼창은 대한민국 만세, 두 번째 국가는 한미동맹 만세, 세 번째 국가지역 실리콘밸리 한인 커뮤니티 산호세 시청 만세로 세 번을 부르겠습니다. 대한민국 만세! 국가는 한미동맹 만세! 산호세 시청 실리콘밸리 하는 커뮤니티, 국가지역 하는 커뮤니티 만세! 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 충성!
Thank you. So that's the end of our program. But again, I want to thank everyone for coming out. And I'm looking forward to next year. I'm not going to be hosting it, but I will be here to celebrate with you. So again, congratulations for a successful flag raising, and thank you for coming out. Take care.